All right, guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about a new product from DialedN. And what we're going to be talking about is this LED controller right here. This LED controller is designed for vehicles, for a lot of aftermarket applications, for both turn signals, brake lights, underglow illumination, interior, auxiliary. It's a whole boatload of stuff. So we're going to be jumping into a lot of stuff, and well, here we go. So before we go too far, this is a board. It's board colored. I'm sorry, I should have painted it. I didn't. So leave that, and that's a hole. There's nothing special about it. It's just a hole. It's just a hole. So let's talk about the connections up here first. So physically, this is the controller. In the controller, we have 7 inputs for the LEDs, all the different strands. And then we have inputs from the vehicle that I've wired into a breadboard here for demonstration purposes to use to show you this video. Over here, we have a power supply. That power supply takes the 12 volts from the car and then puts it back into the control board, and the control board then uses that 5 volts to go up to these LEDs. The LEDs that are supported currently are the WS2812B. They are individually addressable 5-volt LEDs. Now, what's unique about this is, and as we get into the application, we'll show you, but because vehicles are different sizes, this isn't a one-size-fits-all. So with the kit that you purchase, you're going to get a roll of these LEDs, and then you cut it to size. So as we go through the application, I'll show you how to configure all of it, but knowing the length of this, the control board then knows how to do all the different animations. So let's go ahead and we'll dive into the application. First thing you're going to do is you're going to install it. Currently it only supported on Android, but we are working on the Apple. We also have some other controls that we're going to show you here a little bit later on the OmniGauge itself. But for now, let's just talk about the Android. So when installed, all you have is a button. Connect. Crazy, right? So it's going to show you the LED controller. Go ahead and select the LED controller. Once that is connected, the first step that you're going to do is you're going to hit this gear icon in the top right corner. So grab your toddler, your friend, your weird neighbor, and just start counting all of the LEDs that you've cut and how long each of them are. Go ahead and adjust the front, sides, rears, interiors. If you have auxiliary ones like I have here on the board, or these longer ones that I have underneath the screen that I'm going to bring up here to show you in a little bit, then also add those in as well. The turn signal animation count is how many LEDs are going to kind of go down as a block while it's doing its animation. So if you have a longer vehicle, a bigger vehicle, maybe it's higher off the ground and you have these pointed to the ground, it's worth maybe having a longer block for the animation so that that refraction off of the ground really shows you the animation. If you only have one, it's going to be more difficult to see. So that's obviously adjustable. You can change these settings at any time. We also have on here controlling the LEDs with the OmniGauge, and as I said, I'll touch on that in a little bit later in the video. And we also have mic sensitivity because this thing does have a mic input. So for all of my guys out there that like their sound systems, you can control some of the speed variations of the animations with an auxiliary mic input. So let's go ahead. I'll just hit cancel there. I've already set this up for my board. So on the board, just to be clear, we have our front, right, left, rear. This is representative of the interior lights. And then I have an auxiliary light strip here. So at the very top, we have our exterior setting. If I want to just turn it on, I just hit the on button and voila, right? It's on. So as you can see, I have it set on changing colors. So if I want to increase brightness, I just move that slider to fully increase the brightness of the LEDs. Again, in your brain, just kind of think about how this is going to look under your car. The majority of use cases here are going to be this under the vehicle. Now, this one I said is an auxiliary. This is controlled in the aux1 setting. So currently I have this following the same pattern as the exterior. And I'll show you how to change that because with this control module, these aux inputs, they're completely unique in the space. The majority of LEDs you're going to purchase online today only allow you to say like, hook up your turn signals and your brake lights, and they just do one thing. This allows you to do multiple things, and I'll show you how that works. So with that said, you can also then change the speed. So right now you can see it's slowly kind of rotating through all of the different colors in the spectrum. If I want to increase it, I just turn my speed up, and now it goes faster. If I really want to turn it up, right? You can get a little ravey in here. Now the cool thing about it is that you can control the exterior and the interior independently of each other. So for example, if you want the inside of your car to just be maybe, I don't know, red, white, and blue, and you just want to turn that on, and you want to have some patriotic things underneath, or excuse me, inside your car, but maybe like under the dashboard or something, you can do that. Like I said, you can increase brightness independently, so you can dim the outside, dim up the interior, or both, whatever you'd like to do. It's very, very flexible. So when you scroll through this, there are a ton of different animations that are pre-programmed into the application for you. So there's a lot of, as I said, patriotic here, but there's some more holiday stuff. Today we're sort of rolling into the Christmas season, so we can put on a twinkle, and maybe you just want to go around your neighborhood just spreading cheer. You can do that just with this. So there's just a lot of fun things that you can do with the animations. Now that said, I'm going to turn the brightness down and actually change the color on this so that you can see what's going to happen here while I talk about what I have down here. So moving then on from the exterior and the interior, we're going to talk about turn signals. So as you can see on the application, we have different settings for the turn signals. We have a solid flash, which just means that the whole strip is going to flash. We have front to back, which is going to run a line the whole way down. Back to front, if you want to go the opposite direction. Inside out or outside in. So those are the animations that are available for turn signals. So as a mock-up that we've done on this board here, is I have just wires hooked up here and I have some switches. So for example, if I had it set to front to back and my left turn signal turns on my car, you can see that all the other animations outside, they stop. And that's to allow for visualization of the turn signal going through. So your car goes, click, 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 and you get that animation running down the side of the car. So in most states, you're not allowed to drive with these on, exterior lights. So generally speaking, if you're a law-abiding citizen, these will be off. And they're just going to work all the same anyway. So you turn on your turn signals, as long as this is wired up, it's going to run the turn signal down whatever side of the vehicle, if you're turning right, turning left, whatever the case may be. So it's awesome, and like I said, there was that setting in there about the illumination count. So again, for a larger vehicle, if you have to take this 6 feet down, maybe you want a bigger segment to go down the side to get that illumination for you, you can do all that here. And as I said, there's a bunch of them, so if I want to do maybe, say, center to end as example, you can see that the inside goes from the middle to the outside with the animations. And brake lights are pretty straightforward, right? They're either going to be on, they're going to flash for a minute, and that's it. So as an example, we hit a brake switch here. You can see it's going to do a flash that's fairly common in LED vehicles today, is they do a little notice me flash, as we call it, and then they just stay solid red. So imagine that being underneath the vehicle. Now, let's transition more into what makes this unique. So what makes this unique are the auxiliary settings, as I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to jump over here to configuring the aux2 input. So as I said, the aux2 input, which is here, I said it was following something, and that means that it's going to mimic one of the other LEDs. Currently, it's mimicking the front LED, as you can see on the screen. And then there is another setting for the aux2 input. Now the aux2 input, it says when this input, an auxiliary wire coming into the control module, when that turns on, what do you want to do? So for example, we can say, I want to make it a solid color, I want to make it white, and I want the left, right, and the interior to be white. Now, what's the use case here, you'll say, Rob? Well, what if this auxiliary input was wired into your car door? So how about when you open the door, the left side of your car, the right side of your car, and the interior of your car, they all just turn white. So it doesn't matter that this was set to all of your holiday sparkle and the cheer that you bring to the world. Instead, when you open up your car door, they're just going to turn white. So you can actually control this on, so you have two auxiliary inputs here that can control separately, and you can control which LEDs are going to do what. The other common use case that I see in this is for truck beds. Maybe when they pull the tailgate down on their truck, if they've lined LEDs around the inside of their tailgate, you can just, when that tailgate opens up, that can be a trigger to this control module to just illuminate the bed of the truck so you can see what you're doing at nighttime or whatever. So that makes this very unique. We've also added in a couple fun things. So I'm going to pull the auxiliary 2 up here for a minute. Pull the aux 1 configuration here, and you can see that the aux 1 output is currently set to tailgate. Tailgate does not mean to drive really close to the car in front of you. That is not the intention of this. This is meant for a lot of the trucks that you see today, where underneath the tailgate they have an LED strip that, you know, when they hit the brake it turns red and does all the stuff. We can mimic that as well here, and it just gives you a little bit extra. So in addition to having maybe this one underneath your truck, you can have an auxiliary that you put on your tailgate that's going to do some animations as well as it relates to brakes and turn signals. So pull this up here. Generally speaking, these are going to be much longer LEDs because the trucks are pretty long. So I'll pull this up here just to show you. There we are. So I'll pull this up here just to show you guys. And when you hit left, you can see that 1/3 of the LEDs is going to turn on. 1/3 of the LEDs is going to turn on this side. The brake, it's going to mimic the same brake that you have here. And then, of course, if you have your brake and your turn signal, it's going to do that. Now, we programmed in here 3 different settings for the tailgate. So this is just one. And I can show you what the other ones look like. But they're animations that go from the center to the outside and vice versa. But you get the gist of it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and transition over to talking about how this functions with the OmniGauge. Now, if you're not familiar with DialedN, DialedN creates a super awesome product called the OmniGauge Alpha. It is a touchscreen digital gauge that it kind of upgrades all the old school gauges for any OBD2 compliant vehicles. Gives you a lot of customization, gives you colors, logos, all kinds of fun stuff, but it can also control the LEDs, and it also works with the vehicle for some just sort of fun little things that it does, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And it also does data logging. So check out the video on that. But as you can see on the screen, on the application, I have this setting here for controlling the LEDs with OmniGauge. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn that on. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. When I do that, the control module is going to reboot, and I'm going to lose some connectivity here, but you know, you only do this really once. So after it reboots, I just go back to the settings. I can see that the OmniGauge control has been enabled. And now I'm going to go ahead and put this down, and I'm going to pick up the gauge. So you can see I have a little power brick here with a plug onto my OmniGauge. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to plug this in. Now this is going to boot up, and it just takes, just a minute to turn on. And once booted, it does all kinds of super fun things. So now that we have this turned on, as you can see, I'm getting an RPM signal, and when my shift light turns on, it's going to actually illuminate the interior with the same colors that are configured within the gauge. So just to kind of show you how this works, I know I'm terrible at this. We'll put it somewhere we can see it. So we're going to get mock data from a vehicle. RPM increases. We have our shift set to 4,000 RPM. It's actually going to illuminate the inside of the vehicle with that color that you have selected. So if I do grab this and I want to slide this down, and I'm just going to, for example, I'm going to change the color of the alert. You can see that currently it's green. If I wanted to make the alert, kind of a purplish color, that's totally fine. Go ahead and save that. Now, as you'll see, so again, mock data comes down, comes back up. It's going to tell the vehicle to shift, and it's going to transmit that information right to the LED controller. So not only do you get a shift light from the OmniGauge, but you also get an interior alert about something that's going on in the car. The shift is just one portion of it. So we can also swing over, and you can see that I have a whole bunch of possible issues because we're on that. Again, this is all mock data, so it's going crazy and sending all kinds of crazy random data. But if you were to get low on fuel, if you were to overboost, if you were to reach any of the threshold settings that were in your thresholds in the gauge, it's going to transmit that data back to the LED controller, and it's going to visually alert you in the vehicle. So for those of us that, we don't necessarily notice warning lights when they come on, this is a great feature to have. Low on fuel, need to shift, over boosting. It just all kind of works synonymously. Now, that said, for the purposes of this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go down here and I'm going to turn off our blinding alerts just for a moment so that I can show you the rest of this. Because again, with the mock data, it can get a little excessive. Obviously, your fuel doesn't go up, down, up, down, up, down like crazy. But that's just how we program it for demonstration purposes. So the other thing that's really cool is, hey, you don't actually need your phone. So if you do have the OmniGauge Alpha, on any screen, you can just swipe up, and here you can control the LEDs. So just like you have on your app, you can go ahead and you can turn these on, and it mimics the same functionality and features that are in the app. So you have your individual controls between your exterior, your interior. You can change the style here, your speed, if you want it to go super fast, super slow. You know, all of the same things that you have on the application, you can do on the gauge face itself within the car. So you can do the same thing with the turn signals, the brake lights. You can change all the styles for all the animations. Everything is part of the gauge. And here are our counts if you needed to set it up through there. And same thing with the auxiliary settings. When we talked through it, I said that our aux2 input was going to do left, right, and interior, and it was going to make it white at full brightness when it turns on. And of course, when we have that happen, it just turns on white, full bright. So that's kind of a big overview of the control board, how it works. Again, these are WS2812B LEDs. You can pick these up either through us or you can pick them up online. They're about 30 bucks a roll for about 16.4 feet. I hope this was informative. If you have any questions, drop us a line and we're happy to hear from you. Thanks.